That one's drilled to left field. Is it high enough? See ya! A walk-off grand slam, and the Yankees win!
He drives one, deep left field. That goes Upton, back near the wall. It's out of here!
Episode 85 of The Burrows. As always, Kevin Bunk, Michael Merlo coming to you for BTO Media, talking baseball. And today it's a hot stove predictions episode. We did our Yankees-specific predictions. We did our Mets-specific predictions. Already one of them has hit. Devin Williams signed with the Mets yesterday. But we are now doing our league-wide predictions for the top 19 free agents. The way we got to that number of 19 is it's literally ESPN's top 25 free agents, ranked by Jeff Passan, that now have only 19 guys left to sign after a few players took qualifying offers. 3 players have signed contracts now as well, including Dylan Cease and Devin Williams. So we're going to do the other 19 guys, where they'll end up, what their contract could look like, and we're going to work backwards. So you can see in the description the rankings, and now we're going to work backwards, starting with JT Realmuto. Mike, where do you have the Phillies catcher ending up in 2026?
Kevin, JT stays home. He stays with the Philadelphia Phillies. It's tough to find good catchers in this league, guys that are good defensively, but also somewhat productive offensively. JT Realmuto, when you're thinking about the catching position, has been a great Philly. And I don't think there's any reason why the Phillies should let him go. I have a 2-year, $35 million contract for him to head back to Philadelphia.
Yeah, I have the same thing, 2 for $30 on the contract, but doesn't really matter. It's going to be a 2-year deal, somewhere between $15 and $16 million. And Realmuto in Philly makes the most sense for both sides. You look at the other rumored teams, and there's a lot of teams out west, the Rangers being one of them, that are going to meet with him, that have some interest. But why would JT at this point in his career leave Philadelphia for a team that's probably not in true contention? So we can move off him quickly. That's an easy one right there. Realmuto back to the Phillies. Giolito, formerly a Red Sox. Where do you have him playing in 26?
He was a lot better last year, Kevin, especially late. He was a big addition. He got hurt towards the end of the year for the Sox as well. I have him going to Toronto. Toronto already made a big splash signing, getting Dylan Cease, signing him to a crazy contract. But, they're going to need to replace a couple of arms in that rotation. And I think Giolito, who could also pitch out of the bullpen if necessary, signs with the Blue Jays, 2 years, $30 million.
And I have a 2 for 32 heading to Queens, New York Mets, Lucas Giolito. I think maybe a nice low-end starter here for the Mets to fill out the rotation. If they're going to add 2 guys, and one of them is going to be at the top, and Giolito is going to be down here in the bottom 3. I thought there were a few guys that you could maybe get to the Mets in this, and Giolito was the name I chose. I think he's probably the best of the group. Chris Bassitt, former Met, former Blue Jay now. Where does he end up in 2026?
Chris Bassitt stays in the American League East. He goes to the Orioles, 2 years, $36 million. He had a good year last year, Kevin. He wasn't bad, was hurt late, pitched out of the bullpen in the postseason, but he had a good year. I have him going to Baltimore, veteran starting pitcher. They're going to try and grab some veterans here. They already signed Ryan Helsley to be the closer. So I think they go out, they sign Bassitt, veteran guy with experience, and it'll be very interesting to see what goes on with the Baltimore Orioles this year.
I have him having a tanked market, 2 for $28 million, $14 million a year in the contract. He probably will get more, but I think potentially his age and a slow market for bottom of the rotation pitchers could hurt that. I have him going to the Giants. I think they need to replace the Verlander innings. You can get a veteran guy to do that. Maybe Max Scherzer is a guy you go for also. We're not going to talk about him today. But Bassitt to San Fran, they're going to need some pitching reinforcements this year as they try to get into the postseason. So Bassitt's a Giant for me, an Oriole for you. I like both picks. Merrill Kelly, another veteran starting pitcher at 16. I have him going to the Red Sox on a 2 for $38 million. That's $19 million a year. I think the Red Sox are going to look to upgrade towards the bottom of that rotation. Again, they already added Sonny Gray. I like Kelly going to Boston.
Yeah, I had Kelly going to – I like that because I think they are going to need to add some starting pitchers. I mean, Sonny Gray is – what do we do with Sonny Gray making $40 million a year? I mean, that is a problem. I had him going to the Giants. I think the Giants had a couple of pitchers. You just had Who did you just have going there? Bassitt?
Bassitt.
I have Merrill Kelly going there. He's coming off not a great year. He was firmly a middle of the rotation guy, low end 2, high end 3 for a couple of years there in Arizona. Sorry, I actually have him to the Padres. I'm very sorry about that.
Good
I
job.
just didn't write it down in the right spot. I had it all detailed out, all written out nice, and this one, the only one
Hot
that's
start
not.
here.
The Padres cutting costs. They're going to lose King, I believe. We'll get to that in a little bit. But cutting costs, they're going to try and make, one of these signings where you try and get lightning in a bottle, catch lightning in a bottle. They did that with Pivetta. They'll try and work their magic with Kelly like they did with Pivetta here. 1 year, $17 million.
I think the first really interesting name now comes in at our 15th on these remaining free agent rankings. Kazuma Okamoto, one of the top NPB players coming over to Major League Baseball. Where do you have the infielder landing?
I have Okamoto going to the Red Sox, 4 years, $65 million. I've seen a couple of contract projections, Kevin. We kind of talked about this when we did the Mets and the Yankees offseason predictions. I don't think, we think that the contract's going to be low. We think it's going to be in the 40s or 50s. I think it's going to get competitive because of how productive he's been offensively and the fact that he can play 2 positions. I think Boston gets him here to play third base. Obviously, in this scenario, I would have them losing Alex Bregman, which I do. I think he goes and plays third. Obviously, could DH and play first base, though, if needed. But Okamoto, big bat, heading to Boston this offseason.
I have him going to Chicago to play for the Cubs. I think they're going to need to do something to try and supplement what they're losing with Kyle Tucker, and I don't think they want to spend big money. I agree with you. I think the contract's going to be more than his projections are around like 11 or 12 million a year on a lot of different sites. I have him at 3 for 50, so 16 million a year on a 3-year deal, which I think is more realistic for the AAV because right now, the way we talked about it on the Yankees and Mets breakdown, especially in that Yankees breakdown, you see this as a guy who's going to come at a bargain price, provide incredible infield flexibility and lineup flexibility to teams. I can't imagine there's just 2 or 3 teams in on him. I think he has a 10 or 11 team market, and that's going to drive up the price of this contract a little bit. So I have the Cubs, you have the Red Sox.
And you're going to have some of these teams that are getting killed for not spending money, and they're going to try and get involved here because they're going to see the production in Japan, and they're going to say, well, this guy's cheap, and this guy can help my team. So let me get everybody off my back before we get to a lockout year coming, and let's spend a little bit of money on a player that I feel is productive. One question I have for you, and I don't know if this is spoiling anything, so if you want to save it, save it. What is the Cubs' appetite going to be for a Kyle Schwarber deal? Should we save that for when we talk about Kyle Schwarber, or can we talk about it now? Because I agree, they're not bringing Tucker back. What is their appetite going to be for a Kyle Schwarber?
I don't think it's going to be big enough because I think you're going to see the Schwarber sweepstakes are going to have 1 or 2 really desperate teams for him, aside from the Phillies, the Mets, and the Red Sox. So I don't think the Cubs are going to sit at that table and get excited about spending the amount of money it's going to require to get Schwarber.
Okay.
But I agree that it would be a good fit, and they should be going for it, but they're a pathetic organization now.
Well, they've been acting like a pathetic organization for years now. Yeah. That should be a move that, excites the fan base, bringing back somebody that, you drafted, you brought up, won a World Series. Like, that should be the move every Cub fan wants. And by the way, I don't think that's a bad signing, especially if you don't feel comfortable giving Kyle Tucker $350 million plus, which I'm in that boat. I'm in that camp. So that should be the move you pivot to. And I don't think that's a bad pivot.
All right, let's go Gino Suarez. He was the trade deadline darling, went to the Mariners and really didn't do much. I have him staying. I just don't see a massive market for him. And I think they need the third baseman. They need the power hitter. And they'll say, you know what, it didn't work out, but we got a game away from the World Series. We think we could run this back. We like you in the room. And I have the contract at 2 for 45. That's $22.5 million a year for Gino. Interesting free agent.
Very interesting free agent. Terrible second half after being traded to Seattle last year. I have him taking a 1-year deal at $20 million. He signs with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Need a third baseman. They want to spend money. All they've talked about all off season long is they want to spend money. So they get involved here. 1-year deal, $20 million. They add a bat. They add a big bopper. He can go there, be the main piece in that lineup, go play with Paul Skeens, and he signs the 1-year deal at $20 million, and everybody seems happy, and he's able to hit the market next year. And potentially have a big bounce back and get, that 4-year, $100 million contract.
The Pirates they were bound to come up at some point in this episode because you're right. Yeah. They've been boasting about we're ready to spend. I just think it's all bark, no bite. I'd be stunned if Pittsburgh goes out on one player. I think they could, if in this Geno scenario, they add like 2 arms or 2 other utility kind of guys and they end up spending $35 million or $40 million to increase their payroll. I could see that number existing, but I don't know if half of it comes on one player, but they should go that route. I said it last year when Soto became a free agent. I said, why not a team like Cleveland or a team that just never, ever spends, but thinks they can do enough without spending? Why not just go out and splurge the $50 million a year, the $40 million a year once on one superstar and then hope your prospects come up like they always do? Not the case in Pittsburgh. And make an impact. Yeah. I'd love to see them spend a little bit because this is a great baseball town. It's a great fan base, and they're miserable.
I'll tell you who I really think they're going to have a chance to get in this offseason. I think Jeff McNeil is sneaky.
Oh, wow.
Pirate. Sneaky pirate.
Wow.
Sneaky pirate.
That's another thing the Pirates would do, though, is we increase the payroll, but we increase the payroll with Jeff McNeil and names like that. Yeah, it's Suarez. Like, we're not winning 70 games still, but we increased the payroll for you. It's on the players.
They put $32 million on the payroll this year on a second baseman and third baseman, both who really can't play great defense and are both average offensive players. That makes sense.
That's what they're doing. They're getting McNeil and they're getting Suarez. All right, Michael King. First real high-end veteran starter that we're going to get to here. Michael King, your destination for him in 2026.
I actually love this prediction. Like, I absolutely love this prediction. 3 years, $75 million to the Houston Astros.
Oh, same thing.
Come on.
Let's go.
I could see an opt-out after year 1 or year 2, 100%. I didn't put that in there, but I could absolutely see that being negotiated into the contract. I think with what the Astros have done with pitching over the last few years, they've kind of like been this, like they have their own lab over there. They've been really good with pitchers. I think King settles in to the AL West in Houston and replaces Framber Valdez because I have him leaving. So this is the big signing to replace him. I think he goes in, replaces him, and I think it's a nice signing for them, and I think he has a really good bounce-back year with Houston.
Houston's not afraid to spend money in the proper spots, and one of those spots for them that we've seen is short-term veteran starters. Guys who have proven themselves as starting pitchers who have great stuff. I think this is a perfect contract. I had it at 3 for $70, so we were $5 million off in the difference, but doesn't really matter for the sake of the prediction. It's Astros for King for 3 years at around, what is that, like $21 million or so?
Yep.
$22 million, whatever it is. So good on Michael King. That's $25 million, right? Good on 25. Michael King for getting that contract. If he does, I think the Astros are a great landing spot. Yankee fans won't be thrilled with the destination, but that's a good agreement there. Our first true agreement because Realmuto was kind of a given.
That's easy. This is legit.
Now let's see if we get any more as we enter the final 12 guys.
I think we got
11 of which are massive names. Zach Gallen comes up after this next guy, which is Edwin Diaz. Gallen, not a major name for me, but Diaz, as big as it gets in this free agency class. Mets signed Devin Williams yesterday. Who do you have getting Edwin Diaz?
5 years, $102 million out west to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Edwin Diaz leaves. I think the Dodgers were in on Devin Williams. They spent a ton of money on that bullpen last year. Nothing worked out. Kind of surprising that they are in on Edwin Diaz after signing Tanner Scott to that massive deal and it really not working out. But Diaz has more of a track record, especially closing games in big spots. I think Diaz goes to the Dodgers and shores up the ninth inning for them. You're able to move Roki Sasaki back to the starting rotation, which is the reason why they signed him, the reason why they wanted him, and you have a guy that locks down the ninth. I think he goes to the Dodgers. They spend big on this, and I think the Mets, they don't have an appetite for this 5-year contract again. If it's 3 or 4 years, I think the Mets will bite and do whatever they can. But at 5, as of right now, it looks like the Mets do not want to go to 5 years.
Yeah, I have it at 4 for 80, which I think would make it a really interesting sweepstakes between the Dodgers and Mets. If you can get that 4-year contract, probably no options in it for Diaz. He's not going to want any unless it's a player option after the 3rd year. But for Diaz, the Dodgers feel like the perfect fit. Feels like you go out west. You now have a guy that I think has a longer track record of what they've been accustomed to signing, and you feel confident that it won't go south as the Tanner Scott move did. And you also have to be sitting there saying, we're going to get Scott right this year, and then we're going to have Diaz coming in after him. Lefty, righty, it's a perfect pairing in the pen. If you're willing to spend the money and ready to go for it, Diaz to the Dodgers makes a ton of sense. And I think Mets fans are going to be pretty pissed if they lose him, Mike.
I think they're going to be pissed.
Especially to the Dodgers.
Yeah, and to the Dodgers, and I don't think Met fans are happy right now with the fact that, Devin Williams is kind of the consolation prize. They already do the deal, obviously, and, he's here because, A, he'd be a great setup man if you're able to bring in a closer like Diaz, or B, is the replacement for Diaz when he eventually goes and signs with the Dodgers for a 5-year contract, which I think is going to happen. But, it's fascinating. I'm okay with Williams. I'm good with Devin Williams, but I don't think I have the appetite either for another 5-year contract for Edwin Diaz.
Is he playing in the World Baseball Classic this year?
I would assume so, but I'm not 100% positive.
That would be my complete deciding factor in whether or not I have an appetite.
So if you sign him, you have to in the contract it says you are not playing in the World.
You're never playing. You're never playing in any other baseball game again if it's not for my team.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think he'd have to sign that.
Yeah, but I think Dodgers makes a ton of sense. That'll be the earth-shattering day on MLB Twitter. How do we let this happen?
That'll be great. No, I think there's going to be one bigger. I think so too. Okay.
Oh,
damn it.
So we got to number 11. I think the last of the guys that don't really excite me too much. It's Zach Gallen, but still a good player. I have this as the inevitable Orioles starting pitcher splurge. I think Baltimore goes out 4 for 70 here, 17.5 a year. Try to appease the fan base, but again, it's spending money on a guy that really doesn't move the needle that much. Was terrible last season with Arizona. I think he's better than he was last year, but I just see a small market team deciding to step up and say, here, fan base, here's the guy we're spending money on. You can't tell me we didn't increase the payroll this year. And the fan base saying, wish it wasn't on this guy.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I have Gallen also going to Houston. I think Houston has done a good job again in the past with these pitchers, kind of fixing them, taking on those short-term deals like you mentioned. Gallen was a guy that at one point, was one of the top pitchers in the National League. Obviously, he was terrible last season. I think he goes to the American League, tries to get it right with Houston, and we'll see what goes on there. I mean, I think it's a 1-year deal. I think it's $20 million for the 1 year. Take a flyer, and I think he'll have a big market, especially if he's considering taking a 1-year contract like that, 1 or 2 year deal. So, whether it's the Mets, the Orioles, maybe even another smaller market team, I think they'll all be interested in Gallen for 1 year. I think Houston gets him though.
Yeah, that would be really big for the Astros to get 2 starting guys and you replace, in theory, the Valdez money with 2 starting pitchers that could have big impacts on your team. This Gallen, a nice restoration project. Ranger Suarez is the next starting pitcher on the docket. Stud for the Phillies the last few years. Think he'll have a pretty good market. I have him going right back to Philadelphia, though, on a 4 for $125 million a year.
Very interesting. I have the Phillies making another big move in the rotation, so that's why I have Ranger leaving. I think the bidding gets higher than people think, though. 5 years, $120 million to the Giants. The Giants are going to go out swinging. I think they're going to try and get, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, Tatsuya Imai. I think they're going to strike out there. And I think they'll pivot to Ranger Suarez, converted reliever, has been very good for the Phillies the last couple of years. in a pitcher's ballpark. Think it makes sense. Think he has a really nice career over there in San Francisco and is a Giant.
Yeah, that's a perfect ballpark fit. One of those, just, like Snell going to San Fran and then going to the Dodgers.
I told you
Yep.
we had a conversation when we first met. Blake Snell will be a Hall of Famer if he stays with the San Francisco Giants. He didn't stay, but
he still got a pretty good fit with the Dodgers.
Yeah,
Add a
not
few
bad.
rings, maybe get one of your random year Cy Youngs back.
Yeah,
because that's what he seems to do every 3 years.
Ranger, Hall of Famer, he signs with the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Next guy up is I think, most coveted or most talked about of the Japanese hitters, even if Okamoto gets more interest. It's Munetaka Murakami, who I have going to San Diego. I think they need a power bat. Add the left-handed bat. He's going to play first base probably. I think Arias is out the door, and Murakami's going to be your guy now, where you're looking for him to give you 30 bombs at that ballpark. Another good ballpark fit. And San Diego Padres fans are in a little bit of a weird place right now with the ownership. Are we spending money? Are we not spending money? Are you trying to shed guys like Tatis? And this is a nice in-between. We don't know what's going on with ownership, but we can afford it, and we can feel good about how he can improve our team.
I really like that. I didn't have them making a big splash signing because of the issues with ownership, but I really do like that fit. It is a perfect fit. O'Hearn's a free agent, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
Laureano, they lose. So the guys they added at the deadline, plus a rise, probably he's gone as well. That's a good fit for them. I had him signing with the Mariners, but I think it's a weird deal. Early on in free agency, I thought this was going to be a $200+ million kind of player. I have him at 5 years for 110, opt out after 2 with the Mariners. Suarez was terrible. I know third base isn't the most ideal fit, and you brought back Naylor, but the DH spot could open, and maybe you do give him a shot at third base. But this is a big bat for Seattle here to add some real pop to go with Cal and Josh Naylor and Randy Arozarena and Julio Rodriguez. Add a real core offensively now, not just with the rotation. So I have Murakami signing with the Mariners, staying out west.
His contract is really interesting. You're right. I have it at 5 for 70, 14 a year. I think the whiff rate might scare a lot of teams off. Okay. But you're right. The perception that we had going into at least the season, knowing him from the WBC, knowing him from the big home runs and the highlights and the stats, to now, we went from this is at least $160 million free agent to does he get 100?
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. And I think there's going to have to be an opt-out here. I think there's going to have to be an opt-out in the contract in the first couple of years, because if he does turn into that player that a lot of people believe he could be, at the highest end, he's going to want to hit the market again before he crosses 30.
And he's only 25 years old, exactly. Okamoto's 29, I believe. So you're getting a lot of value in the age with Murakami versus Okamoto. Your boy, Pete Alonso, up next. This is one of the toughest ones for me. And I know the direction you're going to go in. I'm going to bring him back. I think the Mets see that they can't replace this production. I think they cave. And I don't think he gets the big deal he wants. I think he gets a 4 for 120, $30 million a year. I think he'd be satisfied with that. I don't think anyone else would give him more because he can't field, he can't run the bases, and it does not project well over a 6 or 7 year deal. So I think the Mets bring him back here. They understand the production that they lose with him walking out the door. You can't replace it unless you're going to go get one of the top 3 guys we're going to talk about. And even then, I don't know if you replace Alonso's offensive numbers. So your direction here for the Met first baseman.
Yeah, I think if the Mets bring him back, it's more along the lines of the contract that you just gave out, which is the higher AAV, lower years. I think the Red Sox offer him 6 years, $162 million, and I believe he takes it. That would beat Freddie Freeman. I think he goes to Boston. I think a lot of these big-time teams at the top are going to trade superstars, and you'll see what I'm saying in a minute. But I think he goes to Boston, and he becomes a fan favorite. His bat will play incredibly well at Fenway Park. And obviously, defensively, he's not great. But now you look at what you've done in Boston. I have them losing Bregman, but you replace him with Okamoto. I have them signing Alonso. Now what do you do with Casas? You could either DH Alonso or Casas. You could trade Casas for pitching help. You have options here if you're Boston. And I think Alonso is the first baseman of the future for the Boston Red Sox.
I would have gotten there because I think the smoke is real with Alonso and the Red Sox. But I do have them re-signing Bregman. I'll spoil it now. I have them bringing Bregman back, so I don't think they get both guys. I know a lot of Sox fans are under the impression they're going to get both guys. That's just not how the team spends at this point. So you do have to pick one, I think, in these scenarios, and you're picking Alonso.
Yes, I'm picking Alonso because I think Bregman goes elsewhere, and I think it's a perfect fit.
Okay, so we'll get to Bregman in a few guys. Now we have Kyle Schwarber, who's going to have a ton of suitors, and I think maybe out of the hitters, the most contracts offered will go to Kyle Schwarber out of all the guys we talk about today. You have teams like Philadelphia, teams like the Mets, the Red Sox, Cubs, a couple small market squads. They're all going to be in on Schwarber and wanting to get him in their building, get him in their lineup. Where do you have Schwarber playing in 2026?
Kyle Schwarber's a New York Met. 4 years, $120 million, $30 million a year. I think the Mets do whatever they can to bring Kyle in. I think he's a more efficient offensive player, right? He's going to strike out more than Pete, but he's going to walk more. The average could possibly be higher, or if he has one of those low average years, it's going to fluctuate, but the power is going to be there. The power may be better. The RBIs might be there. You don't have to worry about him defensively. It's a shorter term deal, which is what I think the Mets want to do in this spot. 4 years, $120, $30 million a year. Kyle Schwarber is hitting cleanup, third, first, second, wherever you want to hit him for the New York Mets in a lineup with Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor and somebody else.
So now this is where our picks get interesting because I obviously brought up Schwarber on the budget, the Mets offseason show, and I think he's a perfect fit for the Mets, and I think they should be doing everything for him. But again, if I have him signing Alonso, I don't have him signing Schwarber. You have him signing Schwarber, you don't have him signing Alonso. So I think that's a pivotal decision for the Mets front office to make, is which of those two guys are you really going after these next few days? And it sounds like Schwarber is going to sign in the next 8 days.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's going to be one of the first guys once winter meetings kick off next week on Monday or Sunday night. Sounds like he's going to be one of the first guys to ink the contract. I have him going to the Reds. From Cincinnati, they are looking to increase the payroll, I think, this year by about $45 million because last year they cut it back big time from what they usually spend. 4 for $130. I think Francona's going to the front office and saying, I showed you I can win with the group of guys we have now. Add 40 home runs to my lineup. Don't add 4 different utility players to my team and a bullpen pitcher that aren't actually going to add wins. I want a hitter who's going to add a few wins to this team and put us in a position to potentially win the division next year. If you're going to increase the payroll by $40 million and get back, because I think normal years, they've spent about $115 on the payroll. This year, they were at like 83. So if you're going to get back to that number, and I'm Terry Francona, I'm saying go get me the big bat. Go get me Kyle Schwarber. You can give him the hometown pitch too. Probably loves the area. That's my big shocker of this entire free agency is the Reds. And if not Kyle Schwarber, I think they do make a big move.
Wow. I mean,
didn't have that on the bingo
like
card,
I like it. Like I understand that. Greg Amsinger, who I love on MLB Network, did these are the best fits for Kyle Schwarber according to me, like his personal opinion on where he should go. And the Reds were in the top 4, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. He's from Cincinnati. I forgot about that. Be nice. I hope Terry gets a big bat here. I hope Terry gets a big bat.
He's asking for one.
Yeah. Needs to be.
All right, Bo Bichette. I have him staying in Toronto, but really interesting free agent. I think he's going to be an undervalued free agent on the open market, but after the year they just had, and they already added Cease, they've showed us an incredible willingness to spend money. I think Bichette and his bat are a crucial part of the regular season success they had, so they're going to say, let's just bring him back, let's make it easy, and he might be sitting here for a little bit, for a few weeks, saying, I don't really have a suitor other than Toronto that I'm really interested in. I'm just going to stay where I know I'm comfortable.
This is my favorite prediction of the entire list. Bo Bichette, 7 years, $175 million. What was your money? What did you have him at?
I had him at 5 for $130, assuming he had a slow market and went back to Toronto.
Okay. All right. I think it's more of a robust market. 7 years, 175 to the Atlanta Braves. They need to make a splash. He's not the greatest defensive shortstop. We know this, but they don't have a shortstop. They just traded Nick Allen, right? They don't have a shortstop. They need to make a splash after an incredibly disappointing season. You're going to put him in the middle of Matt Olson and Ronald Acuna Jr. and Austin Riley, who had a down year. Going to add some pop, a great bat to ball skills here. I think Bo Bichette is a perfect fit for the Atlanta Braves. And everybody that signs with Atlanta gets traded to Atlanta. They always love Atlanta. It's a hot spot. They got great facilities, are a great organization. It's a great stadium, great fans. Everything about Atlanta is great. I don't think he's going to need to be sold on going to Atlanta. I think they're going to pony up the money. They're going to spend big. They're going to make moves. And Bo Bichette is the big move to go replace Dansby Swanson finally.
I think they're going to make a big play for Schwarber, too. I think they're going to be one of the teams that are in on it. But at the minimum, I think they're at least trying to drive the price up on the Mets or Phillies. Mm-hmm. But they'll be in on that. They're going to spend money. You're right. This offseason, they're going to spend money. I didn't have them getting anybody in this because I just didn't have a feel for it. But they're going to spend on someone. And Bichette makes sense if they're going to go that route. That bat fits the lineup, and they could probably get him right in the field or at least they probably think they can get him right in the field because they do a great job developing defenders.
They need a shortstop. They need a shortstop badly.
Them and the Dodgers both need a shortstop. I don't know if the Dodgers do as much because they just won 2 World Series titles without really having one.
Yeah.
But both interesting teams in the potential Bo Bichette sweepstakes. And I think the Yankees too. I've been pounding the table. Why are the Yankees not in on this? You have the worst. Bo Bichette in 6 seasons has finished with an OPS over 800 in 5 of them. These teams that need a shortstop should be on their knees in front of Bo Bichette saying, please come to our team. How much money do you want?
Little inconsistency, though, and the injuries would scare me with the years and money he's going to be asking for.
His market would be massive if he went into every meeting and the first thing he told teams was, I want to play shortstop, especially the next few years. I want to stay at shortstop, but I am willing to move off the position.
Well, he's going to have to move off the position.
He's going to have to. But his market would just erupt if, all right, the better way of saying it is the best way for him to completely collapse his market is saying, I will not move off shortstop.
Yeah.
Ever.
He's going to have to be a second baseman or a third baseman at some point. But the injuries scare me. But they should with every player. So
absolutely. Right. All right, Tatsuya Imai. We're into our top 5 now in the remaining free agents. Imai is the top Japanese player, top starting pitcher this year. I have him going to the Yankees. I think the smoke is real. I think they really want to get in on the Japanese market. I think that he fits what they want to do. It sounds like the Giants are not going to get this done, even though it felt like maybe a layup for him a few weeks ago. I think he's going to end up in the Bronx. I don't love the idea of the Yankees spending this big money on starting pitching again, but that's what they do. And he's a good fit, and he's got great stuff. I have him at 6 for $120. It's $20 million a year.
I agree. I have him going to the Yankees, and I think because they want to get they've been involved in these negotiations for Japanese stars, but they haven't brought anybody in a while. Obviously, had the success, over their history, especially with Tanaka. And Imai wants to beat the Dodgers. He doesn't want to join them. So I think the Giants are going to have a chance, but like you mentioned, the Giants have had opportunities to bring in big stars, and they can't close the deal. It's the New York freaking Yankees. I don't think they're going to have an issue there. 7 years, $170 million. It's the big free agent signing for the Yankees. I think the rest of their improvements to the roster come via trade.
Yeah, and that feels like the most likely route for them. They just have shown this willingness to spend on starting pitching the last few years. Cashman spends more on starters than anyone in the league, and I think he goes right back to the well there and tries to get younger in this staff too. That's a big thing for the Yankees with Fried, Rodon, Cole, trying to get a little bit younger while you already have Schlittler coming in. Let's now build for the post-Cole era potentially, or the late Cole career, where we have top two guys in here already, we believe, in Imai and Schlittler. I'm really curious about this next one from you. Alex Bregman, I have him staying in Boston, as I've already said. I have him getting a 5 for 160, 32 a year. I think he's going to have a really competitive market. Where do you have Bregman playing?
Bregman is a Philly. I think Bregman signs with the Phillies. They'll lose out on Schwarber. The worst kept secret in baseball is that they want to get rid of Alec Boehm. He gives you not only a defensive upgrade, but obviously the offensive upgrade at third. This is the big bat. They bring back JT. They're going to improve the starting rotation. We'll get to that in a second. But I believe that Alex Bregman is a guy that you look at third base, and they've been trying to upgrade the position, but there's been no clear path to doing that. Now there is, and they go bring Bregman in at 7 years, $180 million. He's the big fish this offseason.
Yeah, and I think that the sentiment throughout most of the year was he's obviously going to be back with the Red Sox next season. I'm picking him to go back to Boston, but I do not feel like that's the case. I think that there's a real chance he ends up Philadelphia would be the team, but elsewhere. I see a lot of the Detroit stuff again with the Hinch connection. I'd be shocked if you're not going to pay Skubal, you're going to pay Bregman. That doesn't make any sense.
And you had the chance last year too for a little cheaper.
Yeah, you did. So I think Bregman's absolutely Red Sox, maybe Phillies, probably a few other teams around the league that would be interested in him. But if you get those two teams in, especially if Alonso and Schwarber leave, say Alonso and Schwarber are both Mets by the end of next week.
Yeah.
And the Phillies and Red Sox are just in this competitive bidding war for Bregman because neither of them are in on Tucker. That's a perfect storm for Bregman to just get those two organizations bidding for him.
And the Mets aren't going to be in on Tucker either. So let's say the Mets lose Bregman to it works out. I mean, I think these three are interchangeable for each team here.
They are. Bregman fits with the Mets perfectly.
He could fit with the Mets. If the Mets miss out on Schwarber and Alonso, that could be a pivot.
But your guy's at third base, so can you really make that move for Bregman?
Right. Like you have one of the best third basemen in baseball already. You could move him to second, though, because he's so versatile and so talented.
But you already have Simeon there now.
Right. Oh, so you can't even move him to second. I mean,
so Beatty's probably gone. It's over.
At least you're getting Skeens at least for him.
All right. Top three, Bellinger, Valdez, and Tucker. Cody Bellinger, your thoughts?
Easy. 7 years, 185, Metropolitan. Makes all the sense in the world. They not only is this an upgrade offensively in left, but it's a massive upgrade defensively in left. It helps the Mets out in two different spots. I think the Mets are all over this. I don't think they want anything to do with Kyle Tucker. Bellinger's the guy for half the money. Obviously, there's a risk. He's been inconsistent over the past couple of seasons here, but a great year with the Yankees last. I think the Mets are in love with him. This feels like a Stearns player. I think 7 years, 185, big risk, no doubt. But Bellinger comes to the good side in Queens.
Yeah, another Yankees scrap for the Mets, for David Stearns to jump all over, building the all Yankees failures team, basically.
Yeah, failures. Soto, Bellinger, failures. Yeah.
Well, Soto, great job in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Awesome in the playoffs last year. Devin Williams, Clay Holmes, incredible players. But all jokes aside, I have them going back to the Yankees. I think that the two teams in on this, though, are going to be the Yankees and Mets again. Yeah. I just think the Mets have an opportunity this offseason that they didn't have last year to go after Schwarber, to retain Alonso. And I think that the priorities, or at least their focus, will be elsewhere for a lot of next week. And I think the Yankees can really hone in on the Bellinger re-sign. But the thing that really piques my curiosity here is how willing would the Yankees be to go after Kyle Tucker? Because if the Yankees were actually willing, because I do think they'll meet with him, I don't think the Mets will. I think the Mets are just completely what you said. They're not interested in Kyle Tucker. It's not a player they're going after. Because of the defense, because of what he doesn't bring, really. Bellinger brings the things that the Mets want, whereas Tucker doesn't. But the Yankees, if my contract projections here are 6 for 180 for Bellinger, that's 30 a year. For Tucker, I have 11 for 400. That's 36 a year. Like, they have a year-to-year budget. I don't think Steinbrenner cares about paying a long-term contract.
Right.
So why would you not want to go the extra $6 million to get Kyle Tucker?
If you're the Yankees.
If you're the Yankees. Because that would then, if
you're
Cashman and you're saying these are the two deals, I feel fine losing Bellinger to the Mets. I don't care at all if I'm getting Kyle Tucker. Because Tucker's a way better player.
He's definitely a way better player. The only thing is, I just don't think Cashman wants to lock himself up for 11 years.
That's the other part of it. If they are willing, that's how I can see Bellinger being a pretty easy Met. We're just going to let him go here because we already have Grisham in center. We're going to bring in Tucker, and we feel better about Tucker than Bellinger. But if they're not in on Tucker, I think Bellinger is definitely a Yankee.
There we go.
All right. Framber Valdez.
It's going to be another New York fight.
Framber Valdez.
We talked about this in person a couple of days ago. I think Valdez has a tough market. I don't think he signs that long-term deal. I think he has to sign one of those 3 years with the opt-out after one, but the $40 million in the 1 year. And I think he signs that deal. 3 years, 110, 40 in the first, opt-out after one with the Philadelphia Phillies. I think the Phillies are going to look at Ranger, and I don't know if they're going to want to go to the lengths of a 6-year contract with Ranger. And I think they look at Valdez, who's an upgrade, who's been very consistent over the past few years, really his entire career in Houston. They're going to say, this is an upgrade. We're going to bring this guy in to go along. They have to replace Wheeler. Wheeler is not in this rotation this year. And a nice 1-2 punch with Christopher Sanchez at the top. I think they make that upgrade because they don't have Wheeler. I think if they had Wheeler this year, they just go right back to Ranger and they re-sign him. But Framber's an upgrade, and they bring Framber in 3 years, 110, 40 after one, opt out after one.
So I'm going with the market is going to be slow. We both agree there.
Yep.
So I think the one sucker team will give him a 6-year deal. I have him at 6 for $150, and he just takes it, secure it, give you a lot of security after this lockout, which I think is scaring the players a little bit going into free agency. I think it's scaring the teams too.
Yeah.
But I have the Giants. This is the pitching move for the Giants. Valdez to San Francisco. Another lefty that's going to play great in that park. You had them getting Suarez, so I think we're in agreement. They're going to splash on one of the lefty starters. They're going to try to go big for a left-handed starting pitcher. I have Valdez as the guy, 6 for $150, $25 million a year. And I think part of my reasoning, the scene where he crossed up his catcher looked so bad, I think, to a lot of teams about the kind of teammate he is. And the Giants, while different, I think ignored a lot of the Devers concerns and didn't really care. And they said, let's just get a great player in, because that's what these guys are. Devers and Valdez are great players. And they're going to go get Valdez, say, we have a good culture here. Posey's building a good culture. We feel good about getting him in. And they need starting pitching. They cannot miss the playoffs again next year. And it's not going to be easy to make it. With the Mets reloading, with the Phillies still being the way that they are, I still think they're a tough team to knock out. Obviously, the Dodgers. You obviously have the other teams in your division with the Padres. Never know about the Diamondbacks being an 83, 84, 85 win team. And the rest of the NL with the Central, like the Cubs and Brewers and Reds, are going to be playoff contenders. So you got to go big. And for the Giants, I think they do. Last one, Kyle Tucker. Have a feeling we both have the same destination here. The floor is yours.
10 years, 380. I think he takes a little less to sign with the Dodgers. I don't have the appetite, as a fan of a team that needs a corner outfielder like this. I don't know if I have the appetite of going to close to $400 million for Kyle Tucker. But I think the Dodgers can do this. The Dodgers will sell him on winning championships, needing him because they do have a massive hole in the corner outfield spots. This makes a lot of sense for a super team somehow to go out there and make another big-time move. They'll sell him on being able to take care of him and keep him healthy, keep him fresh, and just everything that they do right as an organization. That's been a big issue for Tucker, obviously, during his career. I think he goes 10 years, 380, and a little less. But I think the Giants could offer him more money, and I think he takes less to go to the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, I had the Dodgers too. Again, I said 11 for 400. It's 36.3 a year. And I think the Dodgers are just the only team that's going to fork it up. I think that for Tucker, you have teams like Toronto and the Yankees right now, who are probably my next two favorite suitors for him. I like the Giants too, but I don't think after the Devers contract, they're going to tie themselves to Tucker also. I think they're going to put that money into a starting pitcher. But the Yankees are trying to bring back Bellinger. That seems like a priority for them. The Blue Jays might be prioritizing bringing back Bichette. They just gave Cease this big contract. They already have Vlad on this huge contract. Yep. Do you want to tie yourself to Tucker when you potentially have to use him as a spot DH for the last 4 or 5 years of that contract? And the Dodgers would be able to do that. The Yankees would probably be able to do that and commit to that possibility. But I don't think the Blue Jays can with Vlad, and I don't think that a few other teams are able to. And then there are other big spenders. Like the Mets, Red Sox, I don't think they're going to be in on this. Phillies are an interesting team too. If they lose everybody, if the Phillies don't get Schwarber, if Alonso's back with the Mets, if Bichette and Bregman go elsewhere, the Phillies are going to be sitting there saying, you know what, we might need to go and just make this Kyle Tucker move, replace Castellanos, which would be an insane upgrade, and we feel good about that. So those are the teams that are going to be in on Tucker. I have nothing else here.
I think Philly absolutely could be. And if Tucker's going to be the last big player to sign, like Jeff Passan mentioned, by the way, on Threads yesterday, I saw that Jeff Passan spoke. So I'm looking on his Twitter. I'm like, he didn't write an article. He didn't tweet anything. And then I read later it was on Threads. I mean, get a life, Jeff, please.
Yeah, that's
either way, I'm not on Threads. I don't know if
I'm
you're
not on Threads either.
I'm not on Threads. So I might have to get on Threads, but I'm not on Threads right now. So
that's got to be something that Meta pays him.
Yeah.
You got to put this report on Threads only.
Or he's boycotting Elon, one or the other. But either way,
yeah,
he's probably not a fan of Elon. But either way,
probably not an Elon guy.
Tucker could be the last to sign, and if Schwarber's going to be first, they lose out on Schwarber, and then Bregman goes, and they're not in on Bregman, and maybe they don't want to go make a big pitch to Alonso. Then yeah, maybe it's Tucker for Philly, and I don't think that's out of the question.
No, it's definitely possible, and it fits what they need. I mean, They need a corner outfielder. They have a couple of they have that Miller kid coming. They do have the outfield prospect coming, but they need another bat center too.
They
simply, especially if you're losing Schwarber, you got to go get a big power lefty bat, and Tucker gives you not only the power, but he's going to increase Schwarber's average. Maybe not on base, but he's going to increase Schwarber's average by 50 points, 60 points.
And he's going to help Harper as well.
Exactly. That's a wrap on MLB free agency predictions of the top 19 guys remaining as of December 2nd. Winter meetings are next week. Appreciate you watching. We'll be doing a lot more baseball content over the next 3 weeks as the year comes to a close. Thanks for sticking with us all year and throughout the season. Off-season time now. That's where Mike's team wins championships. So he's pumped. He's absolutely fired up about the next few weeks to see what Steve Cohen can do to make some headlines. Mets make headlines in December, and that's what we're all about here during the off-season content.
Big casino yesterday.
Big casino. Big casino. You're pumped about it.
Let's go.
Now you can just spend more money.
Yeah, exactly.
You can just spend more money and gamble on the games now and rig it and then become rich.
Exactly.
Great for Major League Baseball. All right. Good stuff. Those are the free agency predictions. We'll be back, if not at the end of this week. If something big happens, we'll do some breaking news stuff, but definitely next week. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next one.